My 26F husband 27M told me he had a shitty birthday after I tried so hard to make it special. Throw away because he goes through my phone. My husband is notoriously hard to please on his birthday. Any little inconvenience makes it not a good day. With that being said, this year went all out. I had the money to do it. I bought him the snake he wanted for $200, a $400 set up to go with him. It looks great. It's exactly what he wanted. The day before his birthday, we went out of town so he could see his grandma also since he worked on his actual birthday. He came home to the snake setup complete because he had to work on his birthday. Working was strike one. Midway through the day I start not feeling well. This turns into me on the toilet with a bucket. I still clean, cook, everything is perfect, even though I'm really struggling. I have a stomach bug, so he obviously didn't have sex. He is very sexual person and constantly complains about the amount we're having sex, most often once a week. So I knew he would be disappointed, but I didn't think it would ruin his birthday. Then this morning we really got into it. He was just clearly frustrated, and it ended with him saying he had a shitty birthday. I told him I worked really hard to get him the snake and the setup, to which he told me he would have rather spent time together. Mind you, we celebrated for 2 days and I left for 45 minutes to go pick up the tank. We have 2 small kids and he says it was them acting out, they weren't, and his job. He does have a grueling job, that ruined his birthday. He also said I didn't make him feel secure. This is his code for, I'm mad we didn't have sex. And a line he uses often. When I told him I'm sorry we couldn't have sex because I was sick, because I know him and I know he's pissed about it. He told me it's not all about me and left. How do I handle this? I'm honestly just pissed I did all this and it's just another shitty birthday W. Honey, you had me at the first line. He goes through your phone? You went over and above, giving him exactly what he wants. You cook, clean, carry and care for his children. Provide him sex on demand. Except when you're puking your guts out zero and he pouts and punishes you. He sounds like a controlling, selfish and I can't see why you are still asking how you can fix this. What, exactly, does this guy bring to the table? Even if he were a millionaire, whatever financial support he's giving you doesn't sound like he's worth it. Why are you tolerating that amount of disrespect? That's so sad. All that hard work and he's the opposite of grateful. I was single for so many B-days that when I finally had a girlfriend on my B-day, I didn't care what we did. As long as I was with her, had her wish me a happy B-day, it made me feel infinitely better than any of the B-days I spent alone. He's totally lost sight of what's important and is moody and immature. He doesn't know how good he's got it. OMG. Why you still married to this person? Woman facepalming. Oh no, the man-child had to work and didn't have sex on his birthday because you were sick. Girl, he's wide too old to be acting like such a whiny baby. If I were you, I'd tell him to grow up. Just reading about his entitled behavior gives me the ick. I'd be pissed if I were you too. He sounds completely ungrateful for what you did for him. I have no solution because this is all on him. Even if he had a rough couple of years and a shitty birthday, he should still be appreciative that you went out of your way for him even while you were sick. He did not need to lash out on you for his feelings. Sounds like a shitty husband. My 27F husband, 30M, hit me because I was giving him a hard time. We're together for 8 years, and got married couple months ago. We are from 2 different countries, currently live in his together with his family, they're all very kind. My husband struggles with anger issues but he's been working on it and it got better over time. Last night we had an argument. He made a joke, I didn't take it as one and just replied him normally. Then his mood changed, he started to look all annoyed. It started to feel like he wanted to make a problem about anything. I've asked him if he's fine, then he got angry, yelling that I'm gaslighting him. I'm the one who has some problem to him. He was just joking and now it's me making it like he's the one who has a problem. He said that I've been giving him hard time for the past week and that he warned me not to be like that. I said that I want to take some time out so both of us can calm down. But he started throwing things at me, slapped me and hold my neck with both of his hands. I yelled to stop and said that I want to go out from the room but he blocked the door. In the end he let go, throw more things at me and I ran to another room. When everything's okay and he's in a good mood he feels almost dreamlike, really. I'm really confused right now. What can I do to help both him and myself and make things healthier? Get away from him before he kills you. There is no coming back from this. The only answer here is to leave. I'm sorry this happened, no one deserves this. Let's be clear, this is domestic violence. The men who choose to strangle, and that is exactly what that was, have a much higher rate of doing this again and putting women in hospital and worse. Get out now. File for annulment and get somewhere safe. Has he ever put hands on you before? And no, there is no justification on putting his hands on you. Him putting his hands around your neck is the #1 indicator that this man will murder you if you stay. Please get out and get out now. There is no changing him, there is no finding the right words to make him not be an abuser. This is who he is, it will escalate, and he will kill you unless you leave. Please leave. He's nice and charming in between the rage, because that's what abusers do. Otherwise, if they were abusive 24/7, people wouldn't stay with them. Again, please leave. In your own post history, he's hit you before and you wanted to break up. Instead you married him. Only 2 months and he started hitting you, trying to strangle you. Leave now, before you get pregnant and bring some unfortunate child into this disaster. Even if you want to stay with him so much you don't care if you get hit or die, please don't bring a child into this. Things will only get worse, and he's showing his violence more as you are now married and locked down, and in his home country without support. I, 33M, and considering divorcing my wife, 33F, due to her OCD. I, 33M, met my wife, 33F, in college and we were both immediately smitten with each other. She was funny, adventurous, loving and had the biggest heart I've ever seen. It didn't take me long to recognize I had found the one. I proposed to her a couple of years later in 2017 and she said yes. Around this time, she started acting a little differently. She would continuously check things like the stove to make sure it was off, or the scissors to make sure they were safely put away. I thought this was a weird little quirk that would eventually go away, but it got worse. She would spend 30 minutes each night before work checking her teacher bag to make sure nothing dangerous was in it. She would drive all the way back to school to make sure scissors were put away. She was asking me reassurance questions and repeating them more and more and more. That didn't distract me with how much I loved her, so I still went through with the marriage. At this point, I recognize it's probably OCD. I had tried bringing it up to her, but whenever I did, she was extremely defensive about it. It became this giant elephant in the room that we weren't able to talk about, but was still affecting our marriage. A couple years later, she opens up about it more with me. Once she did that, it got a little better. I noticed she had OCD regarding dangerous things. We had to get rid of our knife block because she would check it every day. One Thanksgiving at my father's house, he was showing off a new gun to my brother-in-law and she was traumatized by it, and she constantly is checking a box cutter we have in the garage as well as a meat thermometer that is vaguely shaped like a gun. It was difficult to be married to somebody with OCD with the constant seeking of reassurances, but it was manageable. I still loved her. She talked with an OCD therapist for a few months in 2023 which helped a little, but everything changed last September. Due to a number of stressors both inside and outside of work, her anxiety was starting to ramp up. She was barely getting any sleep, barely eating, coming home crying every day and having severe anxiety about going back to work due to a particularly rowdy kid. She eventually went on an anxiety medication, but she looked up the side effects and saw thoughts of suicide, and immediately got scared. I talked with her and calmed her down, letting her know that I know her and she would never do that. But her OCD kept the thought in her head. And with everything she was already going through, I think she had a mental breakdown. She told me she didn't want to live anymore, which was devastating to hear. I explained to her that I don't believe that, but shortly after, she started grabbing her throat trying to kill herself. I recognized she needed immediate psychological help and took her to the where they placed her in the mental health facility for a few days. Apparently during this stay, she experienced some trauma with the other patients. When she came home, I was overjoyed to have her back. She seemed fine for a day, but then the cracks started to show. She started dwelling on everything that happened, then said once more that she didn't want to be alive anymore and started grabbing her neck. As much as I didn't want to do it, I had to take her to another facility. She got out, and for the most part she was fine. She had her medication and therapists lined up, everything seemed hopeful. But after about a month, she started having PTSD from everything that happened. This developed into a hypersensitivity regarding the neck. She's currently afraid of anything long, cords, strings, belts, even straw wrappers, as well as any physical touching of her neck, whether it be me or her, or whether it did or did not happen. This has been going on for a few months and it has been very difficult to live with. She is currently seeing an EMDR therapist and maybe it has gotten a little better, but not much if so. She will constantly ask me if she's fine and safe, and will sometimes even ask me if she's alive, which is incredibly concerning to hear. I know I shouldn't be answering all of these reassurance-seeking questions and that doing it for 7 years has probably enabled it. I try and push back, but a lot of the time if I do or if I refuse to answer, she escalates and has an emotional breakdown, and I've seen where those can lead. She often asks me questions like, "You didn't touch my neck?" or "I didn't hurt myself?" Questions that make it seem she's doubting her own reality or not trusting her own perception of things. Naturally, I had to ask myself if I can do this for the rest of my life, and I don't know if I can. I do love her and I love the idea of having a family with her, no kids yet, but we started trying last spring. We had to put that on hold with all of this. I feel like I have anxiety whenever I'm around her due to fear of what she's going to ask. However, whenever she is at work or with family, she seems completely fine. I think she recognizes me as a safe judgment-free space, and lets all of the anxiety OCD out around me. She says she feels safe around me, but her anxiety is clearly worse around me. It breaks my heart to see it. She has even admitted her mental health is worse around me, which makes me ask if it would be better if I just left. Now she wants to get out of the house, saying that this house gives her anxiety because of everything that happened. I'm hesitant to sign a new 30-year lease with her. She also wants to leave the school she teaches at, which means signing a new contract at a new school by April, so we would need to have our living situation figured out by then. When the OCD, anxiety, PTSD isn't present, I absolutely love her and the idea of growing a family together. When she's asking me if she's alive or asking me what did or did not happen, I get concerned about whether I can trust her to be the mother of my child. Her parents also just moved in the area, so if I did leave, she would at least have a place to stay after we presumably sell the house. I'd go back up north where I grew up. I admit, it sounds appealing. I have no friends where I'm at now, and up there I would have friends and told myself I would get the kind of dog I want. She doesn't want this particular breed. So I'm recognizing there would never be a better time to ask for a divorce if I chose that, but I keep going back and forth. I do love her, but I'm worried it could get worse. It's also hard, because she still loves me and I love her. I just don't know if this can be my life. We've been together 11 years, married 6, and it has broken my heart to see her decline like this. I'm trying to be hopeful that she'll get better, but it's hard. Too long did not read. Wife developed OCD, which escalated after 2 suicide attempts and developed into PTSD, where she is reliant on me for reassurance. I'm considering divorcing because we're planning on selling the house soon, so I need to make a decision to stay or leave soon. I've been going back and forth for weeks. This is a lot. I'd suggest you talk to a therapist. And for the love of God, don't get her pregnant. This is all out of our pay range, but do not get her pregnant. She is not stable enough to be responsible for another life. Please do not make the decision to create a kid in this situation. Even in a lapse of time where she may seem better, she is very likely to have a big spike in these issues during and after having a baby. Personally, I would not be willing to continue given that I don't think it sounds like she is putting in the effort. If you enable her, and you can't stop, then you should consider the idea to leave her to get help for herself. If she is really not trying, then it probably isn't worth it anymore. It sounds like it's been a circle of unhealthy for years. I'd want out by now. Good luck though. EMDR is not helpful for OCD. If she really wants to get better, she needs to find an OCD therapist that specializes in exposure response prevention, ERP. The therapy can be painful and involves exposing yourself to the things you're afraid of, and not seeking reassurance, but it's the most realistic path to getting better. Gosh, I don't have any advice, but just wanted to say this sounds like a terrible situation to navigate, for both of you. The fact that she's in therapy is encouraging, but it doesn't sound like she is making a lot of progress. Have you tried talking with her parents? Would it be possible for you to talk to her therapist about whether you're triggering her symptoms in some way and how to navigate a separation if it comes to that? Because I feel like you'll be better served by professional guidance than Reddit. Other people have talked about other aspects of this, but I will say that EMDR isn't the most standard therapy for OCD, although it's great for trauma. Has your wife tried CBT or exposure therapy at all? It's possible she just isn't getting the right therapy currently. My girlfriend, 26F, doesn't drive, and I think it's wearing me, 26M, down in our relationship. Hello, I apologize in advance for the length of this post, but I would appreciate any constructive advice. Thank you in advance. My girlfriend, 26F, and I, 26M, have been together for 6 years. She does not have a driver's license, and while it didn't bother me at first, it has been weighing on me more lately. We met in college, and back then, she took the bus everywhere. I admired her for that because it showed resourcefulness, and I was impressed by her work ethic, balancing a full-time school schedule and a job. It was one of the things that drew me to her. When we started dating, I became her personal driver, taking her to school, work, and home. At the time, I didn't mind. However, as the years have gone by, I feel like the dynamic has shifted, and I'm starting to feel the strain. During our second year together, I suggested she learn to drive. She seemed excited at first, but as time went on, the plans to practice driving would get postponed due to finals or other stressors. Eventually, she became upset when I brought it up, saying it added to her stress. I respected her feelings and dropped the topic until after college. She graduated in 2023, while I graduated in 2022 and started working full-time shortly after. Over the next 6 months, I suggested driving lessons again, but the conversation led to her becoming upset. I decided to focus on supporting her and didn't push the issue further. However, I started feeling burned out from driving her everywhere, especially as she didn't have a job or take steps toward driving. At the start of 2024, she seemed more motivated. She agreed to practice driving, and we made plans to practice on weekends. While the first few weekends went well, I noticed a lack of follow-through on her end. If I didn't wake up, she wouldn't call or text me as we had agreed, and on the days I did wake up, she sometimes wouldn't respond. This pattern made me feel like I was putting in more effort than she was. In June, she finally got a job but works an unusual schedule from Saturday to Wednesday, starting at 7 a.m. Since she doesn't drive, I take her to work. This requires waking up early on weekends and driving long distances during the week, about 80 miles a day, including the trips to my job and back. By the time I get home, I'm exhausted and barely have time for myself. I feel like my personal time has disappeared. I'd like to work out after work, take a mixology class, or even just sleep in on weekends. However, my responsibilities with her, and sometimes her family, make it hard to prioritize myself. I'm not sure how to address this without her feeling hurt or blamed. I miss the hard-working and independent person I first met, and I want to find a way to communicate my feelings effectively while also finding a balance. How can I navigate this situation and express my needs without causing unnecessary conflict? Thank you for taking the time to read this and for any advice you can offer. Your girlfriend needs to start riding the bus again. If she doesn't like that solution, she can learn to drive. But you shouldn't be responsible for the transportation of an able-bodied full-grown adult. I don't understand why she would accept a job so far away. What would happen if you had no vehicle? I think this is a control thing. She wants to be catered to. You are burning yourself out. Instead of focusing on her learning to drive, why not focus on her transport not being you? You can't force her to want to drive, but you can tell her you can't drive her around for the rest of her life because it's burning you out, and offer support for whatever option comes next. Maybe it will inspire her to learn to drive, or maybe she will go back to public transport. Stop driving her. Stop today. I strongly suggest causing the conflict. It's not unnecessary. This is impacting your life in a prolonged negative way. Start with the phrase, "I can't do this anymore," and let the truth come out, BB. If she reacts badly, then honestly that's for the best, because you can see how much of your relationship is predicated on you being her unpaid chauffeur. Mom didn't drive all my childhood. It drove my dad nuts. Eventually I understood how it limited our lives. We used public transportation when available, walked when it wasn't, bummed rides off family. My mom finally got her license after my parents divorced and I moved out. She's always been scared of it, hated it, and mostly refused to do it outside of a small local area she knows well. It has limited her life, it affected her relationship with my father, it had effects on my childhood. It is a shame all the good we missed out on in life. I do understand if you live in some place that has excellent public transportation options that maybe you don't need to drive, but the majority of the USAA car is a necessity. As someone who doesn't drive, it's insane to rely on someone that much for driving. I would never do that to someone, especially someone I loved. Definitely need to have a talk.